Parenting is hard, and it can seem that as soon as you figure out what works for your child, it changes, or they have a sibling that requires a completely different approach. So here to help us out and talk about what might that be the reason for it, and share some tips and tricks for how to communicate with our kids, we've got Dr. Jim Harris from Marshall University and Dr. Ashley Stevens from Cabell County Schools. Great to see you all.
Good to see you.
Yeah, so let's get right into this one. Dr. Harris, when it comes to talking with our kids and making sure we're getting through to them, any advice there? Because sometimes that doesn't happen.
I think what you said, the word communication, is so important, because that's what we really want to think about. Because learning and growth takes place in the context of relationships for our kids. And I think the important thing is to think about our communication patterns with them, how we exchange. We talk about investing in relationships with them. So there's kind of like an economy of relationships that we talk about. So I think it's, are we investing in relationships with our kids that then result in our ability to parent them at their best?
I like that analogy. So what would be some examples of some common economies with our kids?
Yeah, I think Gary Chapman has a book called The Love Languages, which is a really interesting book. And what he talks about is there's certain things that tend to have the highest value for certain people in relationships. For example, for some kids it's words of affirmation. For other kids it's quality time. For other kids it's act of service. For other kids it's physical touch. So there's all these things that if we learn about our kids and what kind of makes those deposits in their bank account, so to speak, then it can enrich those relationships, which then is what we use to provide parenting and support.
Yeah, how can we tell which one might work? I guess we'll just obviously notice when we're around them.
Yeah, you got paying attention, which seems like an obvious thing to say, but it's not always an obvious thing as a parent, because we get so busy with doing the things of life that we don't pause and pay attention. Like, what things does, because even if you have more than one child, you might notice that one child has one love language, so to speak, or one economy, so to speak, but the other child might have a different one. So you might have one kid that's all about quality time, but you might have another kid that's like acts of service or things. So paying attention, also having other people's input on what do you think he or she tends to be drawn toward, and even asking the kid, like, hey, I've noticed that you really like spending time together, you like doing that, and having that dialogue. It's not a secret. I mean, it's something we should be talking about.
Exactly. Well, and are you noticing that teachers do this as well?
Absolutely. We see this in our classrooms all the time, from the way that teachers offer instruction and they differentiate for different types of learners, but also in the way that they offer opportunities for behavior modification. It may look different depending on the entire class you have, like this body of students may respond well to something, or it may be something that's even targeted down to the student level. I know that if I really need help and work from this student, this is what works best for him or her.
Sounds like this might even be something to, I guess, do with adults too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've seen, like, understanding these concepts of economies and love languages save marriages, because I think about it. If you have one person who their love language is quality time, but their spouse's love language is acts of service, so while this person's out doing things for the other person, this person's resenting them for not being with them, and
that makes sense.
Both people are expressing affection in their language, but it's the difference in not understanding one another that can create neither person feeling validated or connected to the other. And if you can bring people that information and offer those corrections and understanding, it can really change relationships dramatically.
Sounds like it. And it sounds like we just need to start communicating more. So where can families learn more about this? Because I know you always have great resources.
Absolutely. We got you this time. We linked to Mr. Chapman, Dr. Chapman, to his work on the love languages. And there's lots of stuff in there, not only for adult relationships, but also for understanding relationship with your kids.
Oh, that's great. Well, Dr. Harris and Dr. Stevens, thanks so much for stopping by and sharing this with us. Something simple we could maybe even be doing, whenever we're together with our family members.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.